This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Rachel Fife.
Well, welcome to the Good Neighbor Podcast. Now, if you are in need of a reliable plumbing contractor offering a wide array of plumbing services to solve your small or very large plumbing issue, well, that resource is closer than you think. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing your good neighbor, Robert Hopkins with Reliable Rooter and Plumbing. Robert, how is it going?
It's good. Busy, extremely busy,
Good.
but good.
Well, wonderful. Well, we're really excited to learn about your business. So tell us all about it.
Most definitely. We're a small family ran business. My dad, Robert Hopkins Sr., he was the founder. He started it 33 years ago. I took it over roughly 2-3 years ago, something like that. We're just a small family run business. We take care of all things plumbing. So essentially, if it's got water running through it, we do it. From slab leak detection all the way to repipes, all the way down to just clearing drains. So we do it all.
Wonderful. Well, I guess since it's a family business, I like to say, well, how did you get into this business? So can you expand on that a little bit?
Most definitely. I'm not a book smart person. School was not my forte. So when I didn't go to school, I went with my dad to work, and it actually worked out in my favor. Thank God. It's one of those things. I was never going to be somebody that was able to sit behind a desk all day, and it worked out in my favor that I was able to end up being somebody that worked with my hands. I've always been really good with my hands. And when I was younger and told from the school that you had to stay home for a couple days, my dad was like, well, you're not going to sit at home. So he dragged me to work. I changed did my first job at 13 years old, changing cartridges and stuff like that inside a shower valve, and basically off and running from there.
Wonderful. Well, now what do you think are maybe some myths or misconceptions in your industry?
That's a good question. I think the biggest thing, or not the biggest thing, but one of the bigger things is roots. Roots in a sewer line. To me, I'm not the guy that sits there and sells everybody on the most expensive item. With that being said, sometimes that is what's needed. But as far as like roots in a system, I always tell people that roots don't always necessarily mean it needs to be dug up, but it does mean it needs to be maintained. Because I have a lot of new customers and customers that are my actual continuous customers that will sit there and they're like, well, we've got roots in the line, but we won't deal with it for 3 or 4 years. Well, then by the time it causes an issue, now it's so far overgrown that you can't do anything but dig it up. But if they would have maintained them through the entirety of the time, throwing a cable down once a year, it's a relatively cost-effective insurance is all it is. It helps prevent the big problem from occurring. If you let roots continue to attack your sewer line over and over and over and just never maintain it, what it will eventually happen is it's going to overtake the sewer line. You're not going to be able to clear it out. You're going to have to dig it up, and then, the no dig option that a lot of places, including ourselves, are offering no longer become valid, because if you can't get through it, the only option you have is to dig it up. So, people will automatically assume that roots have to be dug up, but that's not the case. It's very certain you need to maintain it. You don't necessarily have to dig it, though.
Oh, good. That's a good one. So now we know marketing is really the heart of every business. So how are you finding your customers?
So actually, we're pretty lucky. When Robert Sr. actually started the company, we were in a very good time where you didn't have to market quite as much as you would now. I'm lucky in that aspect. So we don't really do much marketing. Most of our stuff is just word of mouth. And it has been, don't get me wrong, we've done the Yelp and, Google advertising, little small things here and there. But 99% of our marketing is literally just one neighbor telling another neighbor, hey, this is my plumber. This is who I trust. And then they stick with us most of the time. We're not the cheapest guy in town, but we're certainly not the most expensive. And I always like to reiterate to people, that you don't want the cheapest guy in town in your house working on something that could cause hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage.
Wow.
That's just the reality of it. But as far as marketing goes, we're very lucky in the aspect of we haven't really had to do a ton of marketing.
Okay, wonderful. Now I have to ask, have you ever thought about doing your own podcast?
So not a podcast specifically. I've thought about doing like the YouTube channel thing. In fact, I actually have a few YouTube videos up, but I can't do it. I have a hard time with, like, even here now, seeing myself on a screen. It causes your brain to do things, and I'm not good at that. I also have a hard time. Like, I can talk to somebody and explain exactly what I think right then and there, but it's really hard for me to sit there and try to be teacher mode or anything like that after the fact.
Yeah.
It's like here we have a conversation. We're having a conversation about something specific, but I just couldn't see myself being able to actually succeed at doing it.
Okay.
I'm a good plumber. I'm not a good tech person. And hence the YouTube thing is just not working.
Well, all right. Now, outside of work, what do you like to do for fun?
So I have 3 kids. I have a 7-year-old, he just turned 3 the 11th, so just a couple days ago, and then I have a 1-year-old. I just like playing with my kids at home. With that being said, myself, like, if I was going to go do something just for myself, I love going out to the desert and riding out there. That's my go-to.
Wonderful.
Before buying, basically.
Wonderful. Good little balance there. So, Robert, please tell our listeners one thing they should remember about reliable rooter and plumbing.
We believe in an honest day's work for an honest day's wage. We're not the cheapest guy in town, but we're certainly not the most expensive. I go back to that on a regular basis. That's my biggest thing. We're not going to get rich off of one customer one time. We're not the guy that's coming out, fly by night company that's coming out trying to get rich. That's just not the way we are. We want to have a fair day's work for fair day's pay. And at the end of the day, we want you to be, or the customer anyways, to be happy that they called us and not called the other guy, and we stand behind our product, whether that be, a leaking faucet or a full repipe. We stand behind our work and we take pride in our work, which to be honest, I feel like is something that we're kind of missing in the industry nowadays is people really taking pride in what they do. I'm lucky enough that I was brought up from a young age with a lot of really old school plumbers. Nowadays we have this, the way I feel anyways, is it's actually my generation, ironically, but I was lucky enough to be brought up with a younger or an older generation of plumber. Nowadays, it seems like everybody's just hit and run. We do repairs versus a lot of people nowadays are just saying replace over repair. There's some really nice fixtures out there that are extremely expensive when you buy it. And you get some kid who comes in there and he's just like, well, I'm not 100% sure how to fix it. so let's just replace it. Won't tell you that. He'll just say he needs to replace it. We come in and we will make the repair if it is able to be done. If it's not able to be done, it is what it is. But that's not always the case. There's a lot of very nice fixtures out there that can still be repaired versus replacing them. And I guess that's my main thing is we're not a company out here just trying to take the most money we can out of your pocket right off the bat. We're here to do an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. And that's what we believe in.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, how can our listeners learn more about Reliable Rooter and Plumbing?
To be honest, I think our website is probably going to be the best avenue, which would be reliablerooter.com. Because that'll have kind of a small description as to what we're all about and everything. With that being said, always, I'd say call and set up an appointment if, we are always out here and always willing to help new customers. It's the only thing that keeps all small businesses alive. And that would be it.
Well, wonderful. Well, Robert, gosh, I really appreciate you being on the show, and we wish you and your business, gosh, all the best moving forward.
Most definitely. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate being on here as well and for this opportunity.
Wonderful.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnporangecounty.com. That's gnporangecounty.com or call 714-941-8862.
All right.